Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we are unpacking an absolutely terrifying tale called Vadu. It's this incredibly dark story where the joyous sounds of festive wedding bells are just abruptly silenced, right? And they transform into a literal death knell. We are going to conduct a deep dive analysis into the anatomy of this supernatural revenge, breaking down exactly how a dark past comes back to haunt a seemingly respectable family. As we unravel this mystery together, we're going to uncover a really meticulous plot of sabotage, dark magic, and a deeply rooted societal tragedy. All right, let's just jump right into it.
Okay, let's set the stakes here right away. It all centers around this ancient folklore tradition, the village threshold ritual. Basically, the new bride, Prana, arrives at her new home, but her mother-in-law, Asha, is absolutely adamant that she cannot simply walk inside. She has to stop at the village boundary, light a lamp, and offer food to the ancestors. Why? Well, because the night of a wedding is considered highly vulnerable to wandering evil spirits. The ancestors' blessing is absolutely necessary to form a sort of protective spiritual barrier around the new bride. It's basically a supernatural security system.
But this is exactly where things go completely off the rails. Picture this spine-chilling moment. The village is celebrating, the drums are beating, and Prana is totally focused on the ritual. As she holds the invocation plate, there's this mysterious, unseen figure draped in a black cloak, just lurking in the shadows behind the houses. And with this deliberate, calculated precision, this figure blows out the protective lamp right in the middle of Prana's prayer. Plunged into a sudden, ominous darkness, the ancient protection is instantly broken. Just like that, the bride is completely exposed.
The aftermath? It's immediate, and it is terrifying. Stripped of that ancestral protection, a dark entity instantly takes control of the bride. Prana's eyes turn this horrifying blood red, her face completely drains of all color, and she just violently lunges at her new husband, Samir, literally trying to strangle him. It is pure chaos, until a village elder steps in. She quickly applies sacred goddess Sindoor, that's vermilion powder from the temple, straight to Prana's forehead. It acts like a powerful spiritual shock to the entity, causing Prana to collapse and temporarily subduing the demonic possession.
Now, here is what makes this absolutely fascinating and terrifying. This wasn't just some random ghost attack, right? This was a highly organized supernatural siege. First, the figure extinguished that threshold lamp to allow the initial possession. Next, knowing the family would obviously go looking for a permanent cure, the figure shadows the father-in-law, Vinod, as he goes to the temple the very next morning. In this brilliant moment of orchestrated clumsiness, the cloaked figure bumps into Vinod and secretly swaps his newly acquired sacred temple Sindoor with completely powerless ordinary red powder. They are literally stripping away the family's spiritual defenses layer by layer.
So, the family. They think they're perfectly safe behind what they assume is sacred temple powder, and they try to go back to normal. The mother-in-law instructs Prana to perform the traditional first cooking ritual, specifically asking for Samir's favorite sweet dish, suji halwa. But as Prana stands alone in the kitchen, the tension just becomes unbearable. The air grows incredibly thick, and she begins to hear the eerie, unmistakable sound of bloody footsteps pacing right beside her. And it's accompanied by the chilling jingle of anklets from this unseen presence.
Which brings us to this absolutely visceral, horrific shock. Prana, who is now fully under the entity's control once again, brings the covered casserole dish out to the dining table. When Samir eagerly opens the lid, he doesn't find his favorite sweet, oh no. Instead, he finds the food entirely drenched in fresh, pooling blood. A terrified Samir screams, "Whose blood is this?" And in response, Prana just flashes this deeply unsettling, demonic smile as blood actually begins to drip from her own mouth.
And that is when all hell breaks loose in the dining room. It is an absolute supernatural massacre. The possessed Prana suddenly displays superhuman strength. She violently smashes Samir's head right onto the dining table. When his mother, Asha, tries to step in, Prana grabs her and brutally snaps her neck in a single effortless motion. In a desperate final attempt, the father-in-law, Vinod, runs in and throws that Sindoor at Prana. But remember the sabotage? Yeah. He watches in utter horror as the powder does absolutely nothing. The possessed bride just laughs at him, leaving him completely defenseless.
So as we watch this brutal decimation of a family, we really have to pause and ask a pivotal question. What is the true motive of this spirit? Because it's clearly not mindless violence, is it? It is highly targeted, it's deeply personal, and it's fueled by some profound rage. And this question beautifully pivots our explainer from the present-day terror straight into an investigative breakdown of the dark history hidden within the very walls of this house.
Just as the possessed bride grips Vinod tightly by the throat, the entity finally reveals her true identity. She declares, "I am Ganga, and this Ganga will only leave after taking her revenge."
Hearing that name, that is the ultimate catalyst. It triggers this massive, terrifying flashback in Vinod's mind, violently yanking us back into the past to uncover the horrific secret this family thought they had buried forever. To really understand this level of wrath, we've got to look backwards at the tragic secret buried in their past. See, Ganga wasn't a monster. She was a young, innocent girl. She was the daughter of the family's maid. She had fallen deeply in love with Samir, and we learned that she was secretly 3 months pregnant with his child. But when Ganga desperately begged Samir to marry her to save her from village disgrace, Samir completely shuts her down. He cruelly and instantly refused, specifically citing her lower social standing as a maid's daughter. And this right here, this is the family's true, twisted motivation. When Samir panicked and told his parents about the pregnancy, their immediate reaction wasn't empathy, it wasn't responsibility. Their only concern was that if the village found out, their social honor would turn to dust. They were entirely consumed by an obsession with fake societal status. It was an obsession so incredibly toxic that it completely overrode the basic value of human life.
So they kick off this deeply disturbing, calculated timeline of deception. On day 1, the secret was revealed. By day 2, they realized that outright killing her right away might raise suspicion among her friends, so the family faked a marriage acceptance. They actually pretended to embrace Ganga, bringing her into the home just to keep her quiet. They kept up this sickening charade for months. They literally waited until her 8th month of pregnancy, right before the child would be born, to execute their true sinister plan.
The actual details of the murder? They are chillingly cold. As she was walking down the stairs, Asha, the very same mother-in-law who earlier feigned all that concern for spiritual protection, ruthlessly pushed the heavily pregnant Ganga down the flight of stairs. To stop her agonized screams from alerting the neighbors, Samir violently gags her with a cloth. Then, working together, the family repeatedly smashed her injured head against the stone steps until both Ganga and her unborn child were dead, and then they just staged it to look like a tragic accident.
Now, they thought they pulled off the perfect crime. But, fate has other plans. After the funeral, Ganga's grieving mother Rekha came over to the house to collect her deceased daughter's belongings. While standing right outside the door, she secretly overheard the family laughing, literally boasting about how easily they had disposed of the maid's daughter. In that singular moment, a grieving mother's heart is just shattered forever, and it's immediately replaced by an absolute consuming desire for retribution.
Returning home, Rekha clutches her daughter's photograph, and she makes this singular, chilling vow. She says, "Your mother promises you today, she will have them all put to death by your hands." This is the exact turning point of the entire story. Driven by an unbearable agony, a broken mother decides that since the societal structures are never, ever going to punish this wealthy family, she's going to turn to the dark arts to deliver justice herself. And boom, all the dots connect for us. The mastermind is finally unveiled. That dark figure in the black cloak we saw at the very beginning, that was Rekha. Over those months, she had painstakingly learned and mastered black magic specifically for the night of Samir's new wedding. It was Rekha who blew out the threshold lamp, and it was Rekha who cunningly swapped the temple's sindoor. She perfectly orchestrated the spiritual breach so her daughter's soul could enter the new bride. It was her the whole time.
Let's take a second to look at this striking thematic contrast, which is really the heart of this explainer. You've got two mothers here. On one side, we have Asha. She's motivated purely by superficial societal status, totally willing to violently murder a pregnant, innocent girl just to protect her son's public image. And on the other side, we have Rekha. She's motivated by agonizing grief, diving into the forbidden realms of dark magic not for power, but to avenge her wrongfully murdered daughter. It just perfectly demonstrates how one mother's profound cruelty literally birthed another's unstoppable wrath.
So, the story reaches its bloody but honestly pretty balanced resolution. The guilty family, Samir, Asha, and Vinod, perish brutally, essentially by the very hands of the girl they threw away. Crucially though, the new, innocent bride, Prerna, she collapses completely unharmed once the deed is done. She was merely a vessel for justice, not a target. Having exacted her revenge, Ganga's spirit finally achieves salvation and is released from the mortal realm. And Rekha, watching quietly from the shadows, finds a grim peace knowing her daughter's killers got exactly what they deserved.
Which leaves us with this really provocative question to wrap up today's explainer. When the laws of society are skewed to strictly protect the wealthy and the powerful, can supernatural vengeance be the ultimate, unavoidable form of karma? I mean, this story isn't just about cheap jump scares, right? It's a fascinating look into folklore acting as a great equalizer for societal injustice. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the dark and intricate lore of Vadu. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.